today we begin talking in a standalone message about time and how we use our time as families. And so today I just throw it out there to you. If you are new here today, first time visiting us, say welcome. We're glad you're joining us. If you're a regular, welcome again and welcome back. And so I encourage you to grab your Bibles and be willing to flip through a numerous myriad of scriptures today. As we begin this today, I want to remind you that on the fifth Sundays, like the month that has 5 Sundays, we've committed as a church to say, hey, we're going to call them Family Sundays. And what that means is the elementary students downstairs, they'll have the chance to come up and worship with adults and with their parents. And we find that, I think that's very important, church, for young kids to see their moms and dads and other adults worship God. Because in our culture, we're very segmented by ages and groups and classes and all these things. But for them to come and see and be a part of worship with adults, I think it's very important. Because we've seen numerous times there's students who are 5th or 6th grade, they're ready to come to big church, right? And they come and they're scared out of their mind, right? And they don't even know what this looks like, what's going on up here. So we want to encourage that, and so that is taking place today during both of our services. Also, though, as I say that, last week I wanted to remind you, those that were here, that this next month of June, in the month of June, is that I've been blessed to have a kind of a mini sabbatical the elders have granted me. And so the next month, I'm going to be kind of out of the pocket around the office. I'll be here to speak 2 of the Sundays. We have a guest speaker named Doug Welch coming in and preaching and teaching the other 2. But so in that, if you call voicemails or that, and I'm not getting back to you right away, it's not that I don't like you. I love you a lot, right? Call the other number, call back, and one of the staff will get a hold of you. But leave a message, connect with them. They'll get back to you, get connected, and help you out, however, whatever needs that you have. I share that with you because today we talk about time, as I said. And in the last few weeks, I was kind of mentioning to my wife that over this next month, the one thing that I pray that God can speak into me, and maybe you can relate to this, is help me understand more clearly where am I supposed to spend my time, right? I don't know about you, but how many of you get less busy in your life? Have you ever had that happen? So there we go. I got up this morning, I had no plans. That's why I came here. Okay, right? I get that maybe, possibly. But as life goes on, your calendar gets more full, doesn't it? Is that there's more things that tug at your time, there's more things that ask of you, or more people that are asking of you. And you stay the course, but you have to start asking yourself, like, God, how do you want me to use my time? How do you want me to be best invested in your kingdom? You see, the Apostle John records Jesus praying this kind of prayer in the gospel, in his gospel. In John 17:4 says this, I brought you glory on earth by completing the work you gave to me. Isn't that interesting? That Jesus desired to basically use his time and accomplish the task that God has given him for God's glory to the best of his abilities. And I think there's something we can learn from that. Is that when we see this, that Jesus desired for the usage of his time on earth to bring glory to God. Not just in a repetitious, mundane, push a button way, right? He didn't just want to exist and then die and raise again, but rather he wanted to live with a purpose in a way that God had designed him to do that and to accomplish that God put before him. This is the concept I don't know if we all think about all the time, that God has granted us a segment in time for a defined purpose, right? I mean, think about that. The average age you're going to live to is about 80, okay? That's kind of what the statistics show. If you've lived past 80, you beat the odds, all right? If you're limping around and you're 50, well, you might be bringing the number down someday, okay? But the truth of the matter is we've been given a short segment of time. And when you look at the whole continuum of time, the reality is 80 years isn't really that long, is it, church? I mean, and I've heard people say, my grandpa used to say it all the time, Nate, just want to let you know, as you get older, time goes faster, right? And I thought, no, man, a year? A year is forever. Now I live 34 of them, and I don't remember 33 and a half of them, to be very fair, right? Time does get faster as you move along. But we've been given a certain amount of time. And I think that we need to understand that we've been given that with a purpose. And as created beings, we are on the given time from the Creator. As he said, here's your life, I've given it to you, now live the way I've called you to live. As I think of my own life, I have 4 little ones at home who craft their time and their understanding of how to use their time off of the way they see me and my wife use our time, right? And you say, well, maybe that's the case, Nate. Well, here's a few statistics that I think help us understand, maybe as parents or as adults, how we've been a little off in using our time. Because this is what it shows how kids are using their time. A poll in 2010 showed this. And 3 statistics. The first one is this, is that the way children use media as their primary companion. Children ages 2 to 17 in 2010 will spend 10 times more time in the company of some media than their own mothers. Think about that. Think about that. I mean, you think about that. By the time they graduate high school, most kids will have spent 3 times as many hours sitting in front of a screen than they will in a classroom setting. I mean, the way we use our time should matter, right? And here's another statistic for you. The type of media that our children use. Compared to children a decade ago, today's kids spend 79 more minutes of free time each day listening to music, watching TV, movies, playing video games, etc. 79 more minutes a day. If you need help with that, that's like about an hour and 19 minutes, okay, if you need some help. But here's a list of some things that it talks about in descending scale of how they use the time. And we'll just hit number 1 and 6. Number 1, TV content. The average kid watches television 4 hours and 29 minutes a day. Now you go, well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? But think about it. If you come home from school, and you sit down and flip on the television, you do your homework in front of the television. If you eat dinner in front of the television, and you go to bed at 8:30 or 9, that's about 4.5 hours. Now the question is, are they watching it the whole time? Or are they just there as background noise? A few years ago, my wife was at home, and she was at home with the kids. I came home one day, and she says, you know what I found myself doing? I said, what's that? She goes, I was listening to Mike and Mike in the morning. And I said, what? The ESPN show, if you don't know what that is. And see, I like ESPN. There's times I'll turn on ESPN, and guess what? It's kind of like my Fox News, okay? It says the same scores over and over and over again, but it's just the background noise. That I had been doing that so much that my wife, who's not a big sports fanatic by any means, had turned it on and just allowed Mike and Mike in the morning to keep rolling in the background. So it's possible that there's kids who are viewing or taking this in, and the least amount was the average kid, or the kids on average were 25 minutes a day watching movies. 25 minutes a day. You see, we think about this, and the third statistic is this. Children helping with housework. Children spend an average of 20 minutes a day doing cleaning, laundry, and other housework. This is a huge discrepancy compared to what it was even a decade ago. Now you said, well, Nate, statistics can be mauled and turned and shaped. You're right. But I just wonder, is it possible the reason our children's maybe usage of time is a little off is because we as adults have got a little off in the usage of our time, right? And then when we see this is that we step back and I think it's fair to say that I don't think Jesus with his disciples would have spent 6 hours on a Friday having a Call of Duty video game tournament, right? I mean, I think it's fair to say that Jesus, when God spun the earth and said, hey, here it is, and I was putting time into motion and days and hanging the sun and the moon and the stars, that he gave us 24 hours in a day because it was intended to have 24 hours in a day. And what we were called to do is bring glory and worship God. And the question is, I think we just need to ask ourselves, are we doing that? So today as we get into this, I want to start by helping us grasp this, that time is a gift from God. The day which you have been given is a gift from God. There's some of you maybe raised saying that a man was due his daily wage for the time he put in, right? And then somewhere along the way, I just have to say this, is that it's because I don't know where it really came from. But I remember my dad, he never got paid vacation for being gone from work, right? If he was gone, he just didn't get paid. Now there's many people who get paid vacation now. We get paid to be gone and take relaxation, and that is good. But time has a value in the workplace, in your home, but more importantly, before God. The way we use the hours and the days God has given us matters. The psalmist writes about those who worry and try to make more out of a 24-hour day than God's intended. Psalm 127:2 says this, in vain you rise up early and stay up late, toiling for food to eat, for he grants sleep to those he loves. Isn't that interesting? How many of you have ever gotten up early, go to work early so that you can leave work early? Have you ever done that? And guess what happens? You leave work what? Late. That's the way it works. And you got paid the same amount of money, didn't you? You see, we think this word on here where it says sleep, it actually can be interchanged with the word rest. And don't get it mixed up, is that it's not the idea of taking a nap and closing your eyes and sleeping, but the idea of peace of heart, peace of mind. Is that God grants that to those who He loves. You see, this last few weeks, how many of you had rain at your house? I thought that would kind of fit everyone, right? My house apparently is now just a swamp. That's what it is. Our house sits down a little lower than the road, so everything runs to our yard, right? And then through our backyard, and then down in the lowest part of my yard is our septic lines, right? And where do not need extra water sitting? Your septic lines, okay? Our whole section of housing right there, it kind of has a nice aroma to it right now, is the way I can put that. And as it's been raining, I'm kind of the one who likes to schedule the fact of my lawn mowing, okay? Because I have a certain time that I mow and I get it done, and when it's done and it's not wet, I don't want lawn tracks, and and I also don't want to have to let it grow too long, because I don't want to ask the farmer next door to bale my yard, right? Like, that's the goal. Well, here I got out there and I started mowing, and I knew that it was going to stop. It was supposed to stop raining. It was done raining, and I'm blowing chunks of grass out the side of the lawnmower as I'm going, right? Because it's so wet. And I get done, and then guess what happens? It starts raining in the backyard. I couldn't get mowed. So now I waited, and it starts raining, and now it's not just wet, it's swampy and soggy in our backyard. And so my backyard is not mowed yet, right? So what did? I wait a couple days, and I get up early, and I go out there, and I'm going to mow. And guess what happened? I mowed, and guess what it started to do? Rains. Now the front yard is different length than the backyard again. God says if you're going to plan and worry about tomorrow and try to do these things, we need to be mindful of the fact. He says, you know what? Don't make your day longer than 24 hours. He's given us time for a reason. And in that time, He says, use it wisely. As the psalmist said, He will grant us rest. See, whether it's your lawn or your job, responding to emails, we need to understand that God is the maker of all things, including time. And He set 24 hours a day, 24 hours in a day for our benefit. Did you know that? And also so that the seasons and the days know when to exist and the day to be and the night to come. Psalm 31:15 says this, my time are in your hands. Deliver me from my enemies and from those who pursue me. I love what the psalmist writes here. He recognizes that the time is all time is in God's hands. But also, I think he addresses something and he gives it to God that we can also suck us dry emotionally, spiritually, and of our time. Those who seemingly are against us, right? If you've ever woke up in the morning and you thought, you know what, I think this person's against me. Was that a fleeting thought? Or did it kind of haunt you for the whole day, right? It ends up consuming you when you begin thinking that somebody doesn't like you. And you know, I just can pass on you, church, you know what? They don't even realize you're thinking that, right? Like, that thought is sucking you dry. Without them, they might like you a lot. But guess we need to understand and remember who the enemy truly is. And the enemy truly is Satan himself. In John 8, it says, a murderer, he was a murderer from the beginning, has nothing to do with the truth, for he is a liar and the father of all lies. Satan will stir up things in our life, not in good ways. He stirs it up and allows us to begin not using our time and begin worrying in ways that God's never intended us to do. In other words, he tries to get us to not be productive in the kingdom of God in any way. So how do we begin or continue using time that God's given us in a healthy manner? In a way that we're good stewards of the time that God's given us. Because I just want to take a poll this morning, all right? And don't be a curmudgeon, all right? Are you thankful for today? Right? So everyone like, you don't know what I woke up to this morning. All right? Like, thankful for today, right? And if we are thankful for today, the question is, how do we use today? How do we use what God's given us? How do we use tomorrow? How do we plan for next week in a way that's honorable to God?